All right, my recovery friends, here's the question for today. Is there no one who can do anything for me? That's the question. When things are out of whack in every direction, who fixes it? And when there's no obvious person to fix it, where's the hope? I think we feel this question all the way through right about now when all this cultural and pandemic pressure is pressing in on us. Will it ever let up? When will it let up? How do I deal with life when I can't go to bed at night without feeling the bad news, and I wake up to bad news, and I can't seem to get the right handle on things? So when the pressure ramps up, I'm no good at responding in my own best interest. See, this sound familiar? In the 80s, I drank my way through the pressure. In the 90s, I controlled my way through the pressure. In the early 2000s, I worked my way through the pressure. At times, I've slept my way through it. I've eaten my way through it. I've shut down my feelings to get through it. Or worse, I've worn my feelings 10 feet in front of me to scare everybody off so I can get through it. And guess what? None of those things worked. So no one else can fix it, and I can't fix it. And so is there no one who can fix what hurts us and holds us back, what pulls us down? Where is the hope? It's like that question was written for us. It's like someone who knows this whole season has boiled it down for us into the most essential question. And as it turns out, that question was written about 2,000 years ago. I want to read for you what Paul wrote to the Romans. I'm reading from a version called The Message, Romans 7:15. Yes, Paul says, this is verse 15, I am full of myself. After all, I've spent a long time in sin's prison. What I don't understand about myself is that I decide one way, but then I act another, doing things I absolutely despise. So if I can't be trusted to figure out what is best for myself and then do it, it becomes obvious that God's command is necessary. But I need something more, for if I know the law but still can't keep it, and if the power of sin within me keeps sabotaging my best intentions, I obviously need help. I realize I don't have what it takes. I can will it, but I can't do it. I can decide to do good, but I don't really do it. I decide not to do bad, but I do it anyway. My decisions, such as they are, don't result in action. Something has gone wrong deep within me, and it gets the better of me every time. So let me stop there so you can hear two things. Chris and I were talking about this the other day, about the difference between how Christians talk about things versus how we talk about them, or would have talked about them 50 years ago. So 50 years ago, I could stand here and tell you that sin sends you to hell, and you'd agree, and you might not want to go to hell, so you'd accept my alternative, whatever, when I tell you about Jesus. But you know what, today it's different. Because what might have been called sin 50 years ago might not be called sin today, or even 10 years ago. No one was talking about CBD oil 10 years ago, or certainly not saying it was a good idea, especially not CBD oil laced with THC. But today, so without a floor, who can say what's right or wrong or good or bad? So that's why I like recovery rooms so much, because most of us in here, we might not be able to define every good and evil in the world, but we definitely know what hell feels like. Can I get an amen? We know what has put us in prison. Even if we don't always know what is best for ourselves, we can tell you what hell feels like. And we know that sin usually looks like a fun house when we first step into it, but at some point it turns into our prison and it holds us there until we find ourselves powerless to get out. Back in my 20s, I lived for a year or so in Japan. I took a train to work every day into Tokyo. Trains in Japan, they have these people whose whole job is to pack people into a train car. And my COVID mindset, I have to tell you, I can't even imagine that now. Human beings all around me, inches away from my face, hands and bodies touching, everybody grabbing the same pulls and poles. I don't even know how we did not infect each other and die years ago. They were literally called, these guys who push people into trains, professional pushers. They wore white gloves and they literally push people onto trains because left to themselves, people will not pack in like they will when a pusher is pushing. But in Japan, You get very used to stepping onto a train that looks completely, totally full, and then, just as the doors are about to close, people will jump on and wiggle their way in between two other people who are barely inside, and then, when it seems like there is no more room, the pushers will push 5 more people onto the train. Seriously, that happens. And then the doors close, and then there we all are, miserable people on a train. The worst part of urban trains is that when you're in a station, especially when you're in a station in another country where you can't read the signs because you don't speak the language, there's this sense of urgency to jump onto whatever train is just about to close its doors. There's a strange fear of missing out. But if you're not careful, you can let that sense of urgency push you onto a train going in the wrong direction. You may actually realize once the doors close, you aren't even in the right station, much less the right train. Pushers don't care about any of that. They have one job, and that's to get you on whatever train you're standing in front of. They just want you on a train. And they don't have an opinion about which one will get you where you need to go. It's not lost on me that in the world of addiction, there are pushers. But I'd say that in the world in general, there are pushers. There are people who push us to do things we don't necessarily want to do, or maybe we want to do them, but we ought not do them. People who push us onto their trains, people who push us onto their agendas, or sometimes circumstances will push us onto trains, or sometimes we jump onto trains that seem like a good idea in the moment. We think they're heading in a good direction only to find out after the train leaves the station that we were on a train we didn't mean to get on, and now we're stuck there having to figure out how to get off this train so we can get back to the right station to get on another train. You know what I mean? Like we thought we were in control when we jumped onto a train only to find out that now the train controls us. So how do we get off a train we no longer want to ride? That's what step 1 is about. It's that acknowledgement before we ever step off the train. We don't want to be on this train anymore. We don't want to be here anymore. So I've been thinking a lot lately about getting off trains I don't want to be on anymore. The whole idea started from a throwaway line I saw someplace. It wasn't a big story at the end of a huge message. It was just somebody tweeting. I realized I might be on a train I don't want to be on anymore. And I can get off at the next stop and I can let that train go on by. That was the whole tweet. When I heard it, I was so moved, like, yes, I actually have some trains I want to get off. And I get it. If you're dealing with substance abuse or porn or big codependent issues in your life, my issues might not feel like big issues to you, but that's the point, right? We all have trains we need to get off of, and some of them are trains we got pushed onto when we weren't paying attention. No one says we have to stay there. We can get off. So what trains are you ready to get off of? I'll give you 2 of mine. They're not huge in your world maybe, but one of them is kind of for me. I've been on social media a long time. I've been sharing doing my blog post and my podcast, but I've been getting frustrated by social media. So since Christmas Day, I have been off completely, and I can't believe how much better I feel. I don't know if responsible pastoring or good citizenship is going to happen off social media, but I'm ready to step off and see what happens. I've discovered that my brain is less frustrated, my relationships are less frustrating, so I'm going to get off that train. Another one I want to get off is the train of personality management. As a pastor, worrying about personalities and who's upset and needs extra attention so they won't get upset, and who's saying stuff online that they shouldn't be saying. I do a lot of that kind of personality management. It's very much the threads of codependence showing up in my life, so I'm going to give up personality management. I'm going to let adults be adults, make their own choices about how they want to act, and I will invite them into community and into life groups where they can find healing, but I won't cross the line of codependence and my desire to keep them happy. Those are 2 trains I'm getting off of. What are yours? That's what step 1 is about. It's about realizing we cannot think ourselves off trains the way we thought ourselves onto them. In other words, to quote some online devotional I found some time ago, here's what I read. I can't think myself out of something using the same brain I used to get into it. So why is it that I still habitually find myself continuing on with the same action that landed me stuck in the first place as a means of getting out? That's exactly what Paul is asking here. He's saying that the law, actually a good thing, is what got him to a place of being hard-hearted, angry, religious-spirited. It's a train that actually ran opposite of the kingdom of God. And he didn't know. So he says, verse 17, I need something more. For if I know the law but still can't keep it, and if the power of sin within me keeps sabotaging my best intentions, I obviously need help. I realize I don't have what it takes. I can will it, but I can't do it. I can decide to do good, but I don't really do it. I decide not to do bad, but then I do it anyway. My decisions, such as they are, don't result in actions. Something has gone wrong deep within me and gets the better of me every time. You know, that happens so regularly, it's predictable. The moment I decide to do good, sin is there to trip me up. I truly delight in God's commands. This is Paul still talking, but it's pretty obvious not all of me joins in that delight. Parts of me covertly rebel. When I least expect it, they take charge. This is about who is driving the train, who is in charge. Step one invites me to admit that as hard as I've tried to be in control, I'm not. We admitted we were powerless against our circumstances, that our lives had become unmanageable. That's a huge step to take. It's a step of humility, a willingness to say that maybe I don't know everything there is to know about everything, including myself. It's a willingness to say, maybe I'm on a train I don't need to be on, maybe even on the wrong track, or at least attempting to drive when I have no right to be at the wheel. Who or what is driving your train? My uncle found his life when he got sober, and he had this great analogy for giving your will to God. He says it's like riding a bicycle built for two. You remember those old things? He used to say, most of our lives we're on the front seat so we can steer and so we can be in control. We don't mind God being there with us, but we want him in the back seat and only in case of trouble. But then the day comes when we realize our place is not up front with the handlebars, but in the back with the second set of pedals. God's job is to be on the front seat at the handlebars, in control. And once we put him up there, sometimes the road is smooth, sometimes bumpy, sometimes kind of sharp curves where we have to really hang on. And sometimes we say, Lord, could we just slow down a bit? And the answer is, friend, we've got a hill coming. Maybe you just need to shut up and pedal. Paul ends with that. Romans 7:24. I've tried everything and nothing helps. I'm at the end of my rope. Is there no one who can do anything for me? And isn't that the real question? It's a good question. Is there no one who can do anything for me? And the answer is yes. It begins with a simple admission. I am powerless over my circumstances. I can't manage my life on my own. I need to get off some trains I've been on that I've been using to try to manage my own life. I need to get off some trains that are taking me in the wrong direction. And I need to make the choice today not to control my life or not to control my way into this life, but to surrender my way into the life I want. That offbeat theologian, Ozzy Osbourne, in his first solo album, 1980, the name of the album is Crazy Train. And here's some of the lyrics from that song. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. I've listened to preachers. I've listened to fools. I've watched all the dropouts who make their own rules. One person conditioned to rule and control the media sells it, and you live the role of mental wounds, still screaming, driving me insane. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. Not bad for a secular theologian. Here's the thing about crazy trains, even crazy trains. pull into stations. They have doors that open, and as it turns out, you can stand up and walk right off that train and start your journey toward a destination that works for you.